Okay guys, here we are, Strawberry Pass. Look at the view, absolutely gorgeous. Interesting mountain range, the Rossland range. Sporadic ore deposits all throughout here. This particular rock face doesn't seem like it was too concerning because otherwise this would be a mine, it wouldn't have been here. 5,000 feet above sea level guys, and it's hot, it's 28 degrees here. Not a cloud in the sky from over here. And nice big cliff on the down to the bottom there, big valley. So imagine combing through here on foot, trying to prospect all these mountains individually. It'd be really hard prospecting, you know, you got to walk up and down. It's hard enough to drive through. These old prospectors, they did this on foot, old school, back in the day, right? So credit to them. Doesn't look like it has much slope stabilization or anything because this stuff doesn't look too fractured, like there's not too many faults, and it's echoing actually because it's so big. Just imagine trying to prospect here, the difficulty that you'd have trying to traverse this terrain. So anyways, we're going to continue down into Rossland and then trail, and we got some cool stuff in trail. This F-150 is treating us nice, guys. It's a great little car or truck, XLT, so it's pretty basic trim, but that's all you really need, frankly. You don't need too much. So yeah, it's a good vehicle. Okay guys, so Rossland, the Golden City. We've been here a few times. We're just passing through on this one. This was one of the big gold producing cities of British Columbia. They literally called it the Golden City back in the day. Now I believe it's home to a cult, as well as, like, you know, artists and mountain bikers and snowboarders and stuff. So it's kind of gone through its different phases, but it started out as a mining town and then, you know, progressively has gone through different incarnations. But it's nice here. I like Rossland a lot. I've always have. Never felt any kind of weird vibes in Rossland, which is not necessarily the case for other parts of BC. You know, some towns just have a vibe, but Rossland actually has like a really cool kind of, it's just touristy, frankly, if I'm honest, like skiers and snowboarders, and everybody comes here in the summertime to take in the mining history. Here's the Miners Union Hall. We did Santa Rosa Road last time, showed you guys the other way. So the way we took is the fast way. Yeah, see what I mean? People just walk around here and soak up the old town feel. You Europeans will be laughing at me because 1896 is old town feel in North America, but there's an umbrella store in London that is from 1822. So they were selling umbrellas on this street in London before Canada was ever even really a serious thought. Downtown Rossland. This is Rossland. So this is the old wagon road down to trail. You can see we're at the top of the mountain here, 9% for 4 kilometers. That's decent grade. Rossland has some pretty serious grades, guys, because it's right at the top of the mountain here. That's the city. They have really long winters in Rossland, so it's weird to come in Rossland in the summertime when it's all hot. This is the old wagon road down to trail. So you can imagine your gold fully loaded right out of the mine. You got a whole wagon full of gold basically, and you want to transport it down to the smelter because the trail smelter used to smelt gold. It currently smelts lead and zinc ores. Lead zinc smelter. It's actually the world's largest fully integrated lead zinc smelter. But before it was that, it was a gold smelter, and it smelted gold. Fritz Augustus Hines, he was the one that made that. Butte, Montana Copper King, an American. What else is new? He started the Red Mountain Railway. He actually built the Columbia and Western Railway, and he sold it to the CPR because he's a businessman. And, you know, he tried to start a smelter as well, which he did. He started the smelter and trail. That was his smelter, but he sold it all, right? Because that's what you did back in the day, and that's frankly what you do now, right? The little guy starts an operation, makes some money, proves that it's a viable business and can actually make money, and then some big guy comes in who's got more money and buys you out, right? Or buys a majority percentage in your company, and then all of a sudden you're no longer the owner, right? And so that's basically what happened. But the road to get from Rossland to trail was this road, and it was pretty steep, guys. Like, the way down was an issue because those old wagons didn't have brakes, right? Like, I've got brakes in this thing, we got AC, we got, you know, GPS positioning, even though it doesn't show on the screen for some stupid reason. But we've got lots of things to help us, you know, maneuver. These old wagons, when they're fully laden, guys, they were hard to stop. And the horses and the men that were riding it down the hill, it was not a fun ride. And then likewise, like this poor trucker here, you know, so much respect for truckers, you know, just limping up the hill because you had no power. The hauling the wagon full of supplies from Trail, because Trail's on the Columbia River, so that's where everybody gets their supplies. So you're hauling a wagon full of supplies back up to Rossland for the miners, and the poor horses and the donkeys are struggling to get up the hill, and it's narrow, it's rocky, it wasn't like this, right? This is modern day. 9%, still going down, 9%, decent grade. We got runaway lanes here for the truckers if they need it, because it's pretty serious, guys, especially if you're fully loaded. You're coming down these hills like this on a regular basis. You gotta have the Jake brake full blast, guys. I'm no trucker, but that's what I would assume you do. So anyways, yeah, this road gave people a huge deal. And there's this whole story about these two fellas that were taking this road in the middle of the night to go harass one of the judges in town or something for a sale. I can't remember the exact story. Basically, Trail and Rossland are synonymous with each other, because Rossland, like I said, notice a theme here, guys. Grand Forks, Phoenix, Rossland, Trail. What do the four have in common? Well, Rossland was the city of ore. Actually, I like that. City of ore. That's a good one. Rossland was the city of ore for Trail, which had the smelter. And then Phoenix was the city of ore for Grand Forks that had the smelter. And unfortunately for Grand Forks, that smelter is no longer in existence, and Grand Forks is just a farming and ranching community. But Trail has the world's leading lead zinc smelter in size. This is Warfield. Warfield's an interesting place. I did a video on this as well. The Heroes of Telemark, which is in Norway. It's all about the heavy water facility that had to be destroyed because the Nazis were going to use it to make nuclear weapons. But what did Canada do that nobody seems to really know about and nobody seems to really care? Canada had a huge role in the Manhattan Project. Warfield, the fertilizer plant in Warfield, that was where Project 9 was, the building where the Canadians made all the heavy water basically for the Americans, and then they used the rail lines to ship the heavy water down into the States to Los Alamos, so the Americans could make nuclear weapons. We're top producers of heavy water, and the plant in Warfield was really important. I did a whole video on that. The fertilizer plant's over there. I'm not going to go over there because they get really mad when you start videotaping. I was videotaping there last time, and I had a security guard come up to me and say, like, what are you doing, basically? And I was like, oh, I'm just doing this. And then he was all right, but they don't really like people photographing them. But Warfield is in between Rossland and Trail, and it has the Texcart fertilizer plant, but also back in the day it was the headquarters for Project 9, the Canadian Manhattan Project, which is where they made heavy water. And they used this heavy water not to actually make the nuclear bomb, but it was a lot of testing. They used it, the US government was using it for testing, and there was the military contract with Caminco, which was the company to produce heavy water for the US military. You can go to the Rossland Museum, you see the old tanks. I did a video all about this, guys. There's like a 20-30 minute video. I did all about Project 9, the Heroes of Telemark, and Warfield, and all of this. So video will be attached in the screen there. Make sure you go check that video out, because that video didn't get as much love as I would have liked back in the time when I shot it. I see the Trail smelter. Okay guys, so here we are, Trail Museum. Go look at the history here. Oh yes, the Dewdney Trail. Beginning of the trail, 1960, Dewdney Trail. And it goes all the way through up Grand Forks, Rossland, Old Cascade Highway. We did this up, ending in Fort Steele. After the establishment of the border in 1846, colonial government realized there was a need for an all-British route across the southern interior. After the gold strike at Rock Creek in 1860, miners avoided paying customs duties on goods and animals brought into British Columbia from the U.S. To impose and collect duties and taxes on goods arriving and leaving the colony of British Columbia, Governor Douglas hired Edgar Dewdney to build a pack trail from Hope to the mining camp at Rock Creek. In 1865, gold was discovered at Wild Horse Creek near Fort Steele in the East Kootenay. The colonial government contracted with Dewdney to extend the trail to this new gold camp. By the time construction of the Dewdney Trail finished, the gold was gone. The Dewdney Trail fell into disuse, and by the 1880s, sections were near impassable. The portion of the Dewdney Trail from Christina Lake to Rossland is one of the best preserved sections. In the late 19th century, prospectors used the Dewdney Trail in their searches for new mineral discoveries. The creek flowing from the Rossland Mountains to the Columbia River followed the Dewdney Trail. It became known simply as the Trail Creek. Workers constructed a landing where the creek met the river. Barges and sternwheelers unloaded supplies and transported ores from the Rossland mines to the smelters in the U.S. The site became known as the Trail Creek Landing. As a settlement developed and became a town, people called the place Trail Creek. In 1901, the newly incorporated town took the name of Trail. That's Dewdney, Edgar Dewdney. The late 1860s saw Edgar's journey into politics begin. He was elected to represent the Kootenay district in the Legislative Council of BC. He became the Conservative Member of Parliament following Confederation for the Yale riding in 1872. By 1879, Edgar was a member of Sir John A. Macdonald's cabinet. He served the country as the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories for 7 years, beginning in 1881. In 1892, Edgar was named Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia until 1897. He retired from politics in 1900. Until the early 1800s, the Hudson's Bay Company used Fort Colville in the U.S. as its major fur trading post in the Columbia River District. After 1846, when the border between the U.S. and Canada became the 49th parallel, the HBC began paying customs duties on goods it transported across the border. The company appointed Sir James Simpson to find a location for a fort in British territory. The fort closed in 1870 and burned to the ground in 1872. Fritz A. Hines constructed Trail's first smelter in 1895 under the name the BC Smelting and Refining Company. Construction started in the fall of 1895. The first furnace began processing Rossland ore in 1896. Following the purchase of the smelter from Hines, the CPR expanded the plants and in 1902 installed the first electrolytic lead refinery in Canada. To ensure an ongoing supply of ore from the smelter, Aldridge bought several mines in the region and the West Kootenay Power and Light in 1905. In 1906, the Consolidated Mining and Smelting Company of Canada, CMNS, was formed, combining the smelter and the new mines. CMNS bought the Sullivan Mine in Kimberley in 1910, which would supply the Trail smelter with lead and zinc ore for over 80 years. The first zinc plant in Trail began operating in 1916. CMNS, later called Caminco, grew to become one of the largest producer of lead and zinc in the world. Brutal environment to work in. Transportation was key. The first train to depart the Columbia and Russell Railway's depot at Trail Creek, April 2nd, 1896. And then this would be CPR ore train on the rail line between Trail and Rossland, 1910. Stagecoaches. Oh, the original cable ferry. That's cool. The original cable ferry. And then the SS Nakusp, the sternwheeler. Columbia River at Trail was a difficult hurdle to cross and dangerous at the best of times. In 1895, Fritz Hines installed a flat-bottom barge attached to a cable west of the old bridge site. It was costly and unsafe to operate. Citizens soon pushed for a safer crossing. The provincial government approved construction of a steel bridge just south of the town site. Work began in 1911, and within 6 months, the 692-foot-long, four-span bridge officially opened on May 24th, 1912. Fritz Hines was born in 1869 in Brooklyn, New York. After graduating from Columbia University School of Mines in 1889, Hines immediately headed west, settling in Butte, Montana. Hines invested in mining and smelting of Butte's rich copper mines and rose to become one of the three copper kings of Butte. He fought constant political and legal battles with his rivals. During this time, Hines invested in the construction of a smelter in the remote town of Trail Creek. He hoped to cash in on the rich gold-copper deposits on Red Mountain. The Colonel, as he was affectionately called, founded the town of Trail Creek Landing in partnership with Frank Hanna in 1892. Topping was born in New York State in 1844 and headed west as a young man. By 1888, Topping was in the Nelson mining camp where he met Frank Hanna. Following his unexpected luck in acquiring the Leroy claim, he and Hanna purchased land on the Columbia River to develop a town site to serve the Rossland mines. Their investment thrived to become the city of Trail in 1901. He was the city's first mayor and also known to have a big heart. He had plenty of energy and an adventurous spirit. A true man of the frontier. Industry. New zinc plant showing the big stack under construction. 1925. The years before the First World War influenced the success of the Consolidated Mining and Smelting Company of Canada. In 1910, CMNS purchased the famous Sullivan Mine near Kimberley, BC, which was rich in lead and zinc ores. Preparing for the inevitable shutdown of the Rossland mines, CMNS broadened its interest in mining opportunities to support its smelter in Trail. The discovery in 1920 of a process called differential flotation by Ralph Diamond saw the smelter grow to become the world's largest producer of lead and zinc. The global demand for metals also influenced this growth. The success and expansion of the smelter opened the door for tremendous employment opportunities. People came from far and wide to find steady work. Alrighty guys, here we are trail. Was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday night trail. It's pretty quiet for a Saturday. Just a small little working town now, guys, for the smelter. Not really much going on here other than the smelter, and then a couple little restaurants, and then we're in, was it West Trail? Yeah, West Trail, and then East Trail would be across the bridge. So what do we got here? Kootenai Insurance Services, the bank. Oh yeah, the auto works place. Yeah, so it's a pretty standard setup. The trail is technically bigger than Rossland, to my knowledge. But it's just as quiet, guys, which is almost weirder because it's bigger. So it's like kind of expected in Rossland, but you don't expect it as much in trail, especially on a Saturday. That's the smelter there. And then this is the main street. So this is the Columbia River trail. It's moving fast. Mid to late August, and look how high the water level is. The bridge for the highway, and then we got the mountains on either side. Trail's nice, guys. The big trees too. Thing with trail was they had a lot of trees that were destroyed by the smelter. This was before it was, cleaned and re-engineered, so they had to replant a lot of the trees in the area. They went on a big tree replanting program. And you can kind of see when you look at the mountainside, like the trees are really little. It's nice to see these big trees down by the river that survived. And like there's a couple of big ones too. People doing the skywalk. So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notified. Leave a comment. Much appreciated, guys. Thanks a lot.